Welcome to my August 2023 webinar. Tonight's topic, how we receive divine guidance. This is actually one of my favorite topics, and it's something that I discuss frequently with clients when I meet with them in private, so that they get a better sense of how to answer the questions that they have about their lives. Most of us go through life trying to figure out what we want or what we should be doing, oblivious to whatever guidance nature is offering to us. We are ruled by our needs and our emotions and are seemingly dependent on our personal judgment to make good decisions when there are forks in our paths. And I'm sure everybody can relate to that because we all face decisions or wonder what we should be doing, or even just very simple, even on very simple things, should we do this or that? Should we buy this or buy that? And there are messages from the universe, if you will, to guide us in those things, but most of us are pretty oblivious to that happening. And if guidance comes to our awareness, we tend to ignore it or even reject it because it often doesn't appear to support our efforts to get what we want or need. We may not even believe that nature is trying to guide us on an evolutionary path towards enlightenment. That's the whole big picture thing. But even guide us in the very mundane things of, this or that kind of stuff that we go through every day in our lives. Even if we do believe that nature is trying to guide us, we often feel that we cannot distinguish between that guidance and the noise that runs in our mind pretty much all the time. Yeah? Sound familiar? Familiar experience? In other words, it's often hard to know what in our experience, what is divine guidance and what is just noise in our heads. We can better receive divine guidance if we know how to perceive it. Nature's always providing us with guidance towards a more evolutionary state, the state we call enlightenment. Unfortunately, we are mostly not consciously aware of that guidance, but we can learn to be more aware of divine guidance by learning how we receive that guidance. So we're going to explore tonight the nature of divine guidance, how we receive it, and how to recognize it when it shows up. I'm assuming for most people who are watching this webinar that they have some sense that there is such a thing as nature's intelligence that is guiding us, which we call divine guidance, which I'm calling divine guidance. People have different names for it, doesn't matter. But even if you're a skeptic and don't really believe it, it doesn't matter. It's like doing the energy work that I do when I first was exposed to the idea of energy work. I had no prior experience and was rather skeptical, actually. And then somebody showed me how to have experience, where to look, you might say. We'll go into that in some detail in a little bit. And gradually I grew confident that there was, in fact, subtler energies and subtler levels of understanding or knowledge or guidance. And then grew comfortable with that and learned to trust it. So it's a very simple thing. The guiding message that I received was notice what you notice. Notice what you notice. The problem is that most of the time we are focused on external things or on particular thoughts in our head, and we're not really tuned into what's popping up in our awareness. We just brush it aside, we dismiss it. As I said earlier, we dismiss that guidance. And part of that is that we can't distinguish that from the other stuff that's going on in our minds. And so, if it doesn't make sense to us, or if we have no particular reason to trust it, then we just dismiss it and we go with our rational thinking process. We make intelligent decisions, hopefully, supposedly anyway, intelligent. And we don't notice that subtle guidance that's there, that subtle information that comes to us. But guidance is not always subtle. As we're going along through life, we often get opportunities and signs that are telling us which way we should go when we're at a fork in the road, when we're making a decision. And there's a sense about that when we say, notice what you notice, that, oh, this is it. This is what matters. This is what's important. This is what I should do. And so, you've got a question, should I do this or that? And then the answer is just there. And sometimes it's in words, and sometimes it's in a kind of feeling. And it just shows up, and we kind of go like, oh, yeah, that. We should do that. And sometimes you'll be going along and you feel like you're blocked, and then all of a sudden an opportunity opens up. And if you just follow that opportunity, you get that sense that, oh, this is the right path. This is what I should be doing now. And you can do that to answer all kinds of questions about your life and what's going on, what you need to do. But guidance often shows up very subtly as just very faint impulses. Maybe images, you may get words. There may just be sensations. You may just have the feeling. It's that kind of feeling you get when you do a math problem in your head and you get an answer and you just know that you did it right. It's that subtle feeling like, oh yeah, that's the correct answer, or that you recall something and you go like, that was what it was. That's somebody's name, for instance. I've never been good at remembering names, so that when a name pops into my head, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's the name. That's their name. And I feel confident about that. And so it's that subtle sense of things. Now, when there's a lot going on in the head, maybe you're under a lot of stress, or you've got a lot of decisions, or you're just in a hurry, it may be very difficult to pick up the subtle influence of that subtle quality that, oh, this is what nature wants us to do now. And now ultimately that guidance appears in a way that it's just completely automatic. Maharishi called that automation in administration. And it's a beautiful phrase, automation in administration. It's a state of life on autopilot. Everything just happens naturally, spontaneously, automatically, completely governed by natural law, so that we can live mistake-free and problem-free. Now, that bears a little explanation, because we see enlightened people having all manner of problems. They may become ill, or they may be injured, or there may be other kinds of challenges in their lives, family problems, and whatever. The point is that to an enlightened person, there are no problems or mistakes. Everything that happens or that one does is what nature requires. It's completely spontaneous. We're tuned into that level of intelligence, and it just operates through us, you could say. It just operates through us. And we don't really have to analyze any situation. We just know what to do. And I know, being around Maharishi some over the many decades that I was meditating and he was on the planet, it was often very hard to understand why he chose to do certain things, because it didn't make any real sense to those of us who were operating in a very waking state, as he called it, kind of way, where we're analyzing situations. And I remember once I had the opportunity to ask him, we were working out some project, some thing that we were going to do. And I being a very practical person, said, Marcy, I wonder if this is the time when we might consider the human resources that might be necessary to do this. And he didn't say anything. He just went on with what he was doing and just ignored me. And I went like, now why wouldn't we try to figure out how many people we're going to need to, to do this project, and what kinds of people, what kind of skills they were going to need to have. And it was a very enlightening experience for me, because I realized that Marshy wasn't thinking in terms of those practicalities. For him, it was developing the project. And it was, in some sense, having it in our awareness that was bringing about the results of the project without ever having done the project itself, without ever going to work on it. So we never needed to consider the human resources. But for those of us, we were completely absorbed in the, figuring out how to actually do the project. So that automation and administration is a marvelous, marvelous state to be in, where you can just trust that everything that you do, everything you say, is what you are supposed to be saying in that very moment. So how does that guidance feel to us when we have a question? And I'm going to go through this now, and then when we do the group clearing session, we'll actually practice this kind of thing. I've already alluded, it's like when you do a math problem and you got the right answer. It's that kind of a feeling. It's just a good feeling. You feel comfortable, confident inside that's right. And if you think about it, you have those kind of experiences every day, where, you go like, oh, I should do this, and then I should do that, and I do the next thing, and I just move from one thing to another. And I don't really think about or analyze what I'm doing or what the order in which I'm doing things. It's just kind of, you've already processed that, as it were. You think that your subconscious worked that out. And in some sense, it is your subconscious, but it's the whole of nature's intelligence. It's also processing that you're picking up. And you're just moving smoothly with that. And then if you stop to analyze, you might go like, well, should I do this? No, maybe I should do that. No, the first one. No, the second one. Oh, maybe there's a third thing. Oh, yeah. And you kind of find yourself stuck. You're like spinning your wheels. You don't know what to do. And if you just relax and just go still inside and outside, just kind of go still like I just did. And then you maybe even ask the question, which of these options? And then there'll be an impulse, and it'll be quick, and it'll be right there. And the impulse, do this. And then you just go do it. If you think about it, you'll question it again. But if you just go do it, then you go like, oh yeah, that's good. And then you do whatever's next, and you just flow like that. And it's very, very easy and spontaneous. Let's think about that in terms of health a little bit, because that comes up. And supposing something has happened, you go like, what is that? It's better than asking what's wrong. You just say, what is that? And you just go with whatever you get. And maybe you get, I don't know, I should see a doctor or somebody, a healer of some kind. Me, for instance. I'm laughing because I had a client just recently, and they missed an appointment, and I found out they were in they called me and they said, I'm in the hospital. I actually had the intuition that they were in the hospital. But it was one of those that I went like, well, yeah, they could be, and I kind of intellectually processed it instead of going like, yeah, they're in the hospital. I actually knew they were in the hospital, but my conscious mind processed that and went like, well, they could be. Maybe they're not. Let's hope they're not. And I was kind of going through that, cognitive stuff, just thinking about that instead of going like, yeah, no, they're in the hospital. Maybe I should just go to work on them. And it turns out they were in the hospital, and they'd been there for a couple of days at that point. I think that's right. And I sort of said, gee, maybe you should have contacted me when you first, got ill. Even if you still went to the hospital, which may have been necessary. And I hopefully would know that. But I could have gone to work on them right away and possibly saved them from going to the hospital. They didn't have such a serious problem that I couldn't have taken care of it, just based on my prior experience with them and other people. But people often don't think, oh, something's going on. I should check in with nature, intelligence. I should check in and see what that might be. So when we do the group clearing session, we'll actually check in on something. It doesn't have to be health related. Could be financial, for instance. Maybe there's a financial thing going on and you need to figure out what to do. And so, you may have some options already in your mind about getting an advisor or talking to somebody or just, winging it, doing it yourself. But you can check in. Is this something that I need help with? Oh, yes. Okay. Who should I contact? And then somebody might come to mind. Or maybe you just go, I don't know. I need somebody to come forward. And then, you may find you go to lunch with a friend and the friend says, oh yeah, you ought to contact so-and-so, and it's like nature provides the information to you in a concrete sort of way, from somebody saying it to you. But that's actually the whole process of nature's intelligence working out the situation for you. And again, no matter how enlightened we are, we still may face situations that need to be dealt with. And that's a very real thing. And that's not a problem. We don't want to think about it as negatively. We think about it as, oh, something is going on. It needs attention. And it may be an opportunity for something new. So, we just open ourselves to that possibility, or those possibilities, and see what happens. But the thing is that nature is trying to guide us if we just ask or open our awareness to that. What is it that's going on? What about that? And then, oh, it's this. Now, on a practical note about doing that, you ask a question, for instance, and you get an answer, and then the intellect, the brain kicks in and starts thinking about it. And so you have to catch the impulse. You have to notice what you notice first, and then act, and not ponder the answer. Now, sometimes this is very difficult because sometimes we have a certain desire and we ask nature, oh, can I do this? And nature says no. And it may give you a sign. It may it may close off an opportunity or not open one if you needed one. Or you may just get the message. No. And you go like, no, that's not what I want. And so you're kind of like, 2 out of 3. Let's ask the question 2 more times. You can ask the question in different ways. That's permissible, but just asking again and again just is further engaging the intellect. It doesn't really work. You can't count on the information that you get because your brain is so engaged in it. So that notion of spontaneity, of innocence is a good word here. Being innocent in asking for information or looking to see what information is already being sent. There's an opportunity. Oh, is this? Yes. Okay, just that quick, just that quick. But most of us, if you're like me, you got to analyze the situation. Oh, well, yeah, okay, maybe. Let me think about that. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. You got to follow that impulse. You got to follow that impulse. You got to learn to trust that impulse. And that comes with experience. The more you do this, that is, the more you listen, if you, as it were, and look and feel, touch, taste, and smell, all the senses can be involved to get a sense of what you should be doing, what nature is requiring of you for your evolution, whether you like it or not. And sometimes you won't like it. That's just how it is, because the intellect and the desire is on one level, and that desire is born from some seeds of some impressions in the nervous system, things that have happened before, not necessarily guiding you in an evolutionary path. And so sometimes nature, nature can play a little rough sometimes. Sometimes it's not a lot of fun. And then then you surrender to it. Oh, okay. And you just go along with it, and then everything's okay. If you don't surrender to it, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. Could even be painful. That feeling of frustration, the feeling that you're not doing what you should be doing. So we receive guidance. We receive it all the time. It's always there. And we can tune into it. We can open ourselves to it. And understanding how it works, how it comes to us, how we perceive it, how to follow it, can be very helpful to smoothing out our ride. Even if we're having, even if we're ill, like my friend who had to go to the hospital. Even if we're not well and that we need that kind of attention, it's okay. There's it's a wonderful story. I think I've told it before in one or two of the other webinars. I'm going to tell it again. So a very religious man lives in a house near a river, and there's a great deal of rain, lasts for several days, and the river starts rising. And an evacuation order is given, and over the radio and television, and police cars come around, and they tell everybody they should leave because the land is low, the river's rising, it's going to be a great flood. And the man says, "No, I'm a devout man. I believe in God. I trust God. God's going to take care of me. I'll stay." So he stays. The water rises, surrounds his house. And after a while, he's got to go up to the second floor. And a boat comes along and offers him, to take him away. And he says, no, I'll be all right. God's going to take care of me. God will protect me. And the water continues to rise. And the man finds himself on the roof of his house. And things are not looking good, but he's faithful. He's like Job. He says, no, this is what God wants. Then I will prove that I am faithful, just as Job did. Job from the Bible. And helicopter comes along and drops a ladder down. Says, climb the ladder. And the man says, no, I'm going to be okay. God's going to take care of me. And I'm demonstrating my faith in God. So he gets to the pearly gates. And he's greeted, and he says, I got to ask a question. I am a man of deep faith and conviction. I believe in God. I do what, I go to church and I give donations and everything. Why am I here? Why didn't God save me? And St. Gabriel, I think it's St. Gabriel, right, at the gates. And he says, look, we sent you radio and television messages. We sent a boat. We sent a helicopter. So the signs were there of what to do. The need was there. God had organized all of this to save him, and he didn't follow. He didn't follow the signs. He didn't accept the rescue and the safety. So it's not about the intellect believing that this is the way things should be. It's about actually following what nature is giving you, what nature is directing and sending your way. So I hope none of you pass up the signs when the water's rising, and take good care of yourselves. So with that, I'll look in the chat, see if there's any messages or any questions. If not, we will end this presentation here and move on to the group clearing session. And just to let everybody know, the webinar in September will be on the 12th. And it's going to be confronting one's mortality and one's immortality. And it's a topic I am particularly excited about. Confronting one's mortality and one's immortality, September 12th. Okay, I think that does it. Good to have you all with me, and we'll move on to the group clearing session.